Hey there, guys. This is Malorian, and this will be another Paintisode, and we'll see if I can make the full hour. I am sick right now. You can't really hear it right now, but I mean, at some point, guaranteed over the next hour, if I can make it, I'll be coughing like crazy. So either way, we'll see how far we get. The whole idea of the Paintisode is you don't need to be watching this. Pull out your paints, pull out your models, start working on whatever hobby thing you're doing, and I'm just going to be chatting about some stuff. I'll be answering the questions that people gave me, and then if you're watching, you can always post more stuff, and I'll talk about that too. Now, what am I can already feel it, man. We're going to see. Here we go. I'm drinking some Beck's. Hopefully that'll keep my throat going. And I'm painting Barnabas. So this month I had been painting a whole bunch of the Shadows over Camelot. Really at this point, all that stuff is done except for the Knights, which I kind of sped paint. They look like crap, but they're good enough that when they're on the board, they look okay. I'll come back to them and start killing them off one by one, but I'm going to get back into a warmachine now, which I'm sure a lot of you guys are happy to hear. And the first thing I'm going to be painting is this Barnabas. You know, for those who watch my battle reports, I just played a game with Barnabas, and he's a great guy. You know, he's a great caster. I don't really play him enough, so I got some started paint on him already. Like I said, I don't know if I can make the full hour, so I wanted to get every bit of help I could get. And really, I'm just going to go through this, go through the questions, and we'll see how it goes. And again, if I'm coughing up a storm, I'm sorry. If it gets too bad, we'll just call it. Well, what else can I do, right? All right. First question from John Tailby. In the event you don't make Team Canada, will you spend the year on the Signar treadmill, or will you spend your gaming time around between different factions and games? You don't want to burn out of Signar if that is your thing. In a Teams event, what sorts of lists do you think that Signar list? What? In a Teams event, what sorts of lists do you think that a Signar list would be sent up against? So two different questions. First one here. If I don't make the team, basically the idea is to really still go Signar, Signar, Signar. However, whereas right now I'm saying like I'm probably doing like 90% Signar, I might relax it to like 80% Signar, which isn't a big deal, but I still need to focus on it, right? The whole reason why if I don't make it this year is because I'm not getting enough games in with them. I'm not going to enough cons. And if I just say, oh, screw it, I didn't make the team, I might as well play with whatever now, I'm not going to be setting myself any better for next year. So I still do have to really work on the Signar if I want to make the team, if it is looking towards 2016. Would I be doing other games? Board games, yes. But if you're asking if I'm going to be going back and doing more fantasy, you know, the door is always open there, where if people want to have games, it's good to go. But, you know, fantasy, I have not been hearing a lot of talk about it here. You know, it's really kind of died down, and maybe it's just the fact that my regular old fantasy opponents have kind of resigned themselves that Malorian is now a War Machine guy. But I'm not getting any of the calls to play fantasy or anything like that. So, no, if I don't make the team, lots of Signar are still coming. Second question, in the Teams event, you know, what I'd be up against. As a Signar player, they're going to be using me against Cricks. Signar is a great counter to Cricks, so that one for sure. And I believe I might also be used against Bradigus. Two reasons for that. One could be because, hey, if we're going to get our butts kicked by Bradigus, might as well be this newbie player on the team. And two, there's not a lot of lists that really shut down Bradigus like Epic Haley does. And so my Epic Haley list might be our best shot. So they might be using me as the counter to Bradigus. We'll have to really see there. But those are probably the two main ones. Of course, Siege would be great if we're ever up against a real troll, miserable meat mountain type list, or a Fist of Halak. You know, that type of thing I can be used against. But in general, because again, my lists aren't really set, other than you can kind of assume I'm going to play Epic Haley, is that I'll be up against Cricks for sure. And then I'm guessing I might also be the Bradigus drop as well. But that remains to be seen. Philomis saying, yes, first time I will be seeing one of these live. Philomis, I was noticing you were just making a comment on the last Paintisode. So I was actually just thinking to myself, man, he just missed me. So I'm really happy to hear that you're able to catch me. Because, yeah, I know you were the Tomb King player for when I was always doing the Tale of Fantasy, what was it, Around the World in 12 games. That was it. And, yeah, I'm wondering how that's going. You still sticking with your Tomb Kings or going on to something else? Anyway, going on with the questions here. Chance Encounter saying, thanks for the shout out in the last Paintisode. Yeah, I'm just gonna say you're welcome, and we won't talk about how dumb I was in that one. Unfortunately, I have no videos yet. I played my first game of Warmachine over the weekend, Gorshade 3 against Thyra, and I had a couple of rules questions. When do you make the command check for models that are affected by Abomination and the Terror special rules? So what you got to do is that if it's a solo, you would move it up. It would get within the range. I mean, the range is different for whether it's Abomination or Terror, but when you get in range, you make your test. Pretty simple. When it's a unit, you have to wait till you make all the moves for the unit first. It's a common mistake where somebody moves their first mullet up. It's like, oh, take a command test, fail. And it's like, well, there's two things. Either one, some people will mess it up and say that the rest of the unit doesn't move, which isn't true. Or two, now that they know they're going to fail, they're like, screw this, I'm holding back. So, yeah, make all the movements for all the models in the unit first, and then you test. Remember, too, that if you do that on your turn, that when the unit is done moving, you also get a chance to rally them. So keep in mind that, that FAQ. So how does the timing work for the curse ability on the Bane Riders? I assume I can use it before I charge with them since it extends their charge range. But can I use in a turn when they are already in combat with another model unit to get the bonus to attack rolls? You basically just use it whenever. So, you know, if at the start you want to get that bonus to charge, yeah, use it then. If you're already in combat, use it kind of whenever. It kind of makes sense for you to be using it ASAP, or at least whenever things are in range. And yeah, just let those Bane Riders go and do their thing and kick butt. On a separate note, what do you think of the new Gargantuans for Hordes? Kind of talked about that in my Welsh episode, but we can talk briefly about it here. First of all, as I'm painting minions, still very disappointed that I did not get a Minions Gargantuan. That was a major thing. I mean, really, with John's questions previous, saying, you know, would you be playing other factions, blah, 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 I could easily see me playing a lot more minions had they just released a Minions Gargantuan. And the sad part is I'm sure I am not alone in that. There is a whole world of people who are like, yeah, I'm going to play my minions. They're going to be so awesome. You know, we just got our new battle engine and everything's looking happy, and then we don't get a Gargantuan. It's like, well, thanks, son of a bitch. Now, that doesn't mean that we are completely screwed. As we saw with the pictures at the end of that video, there is some other things coming like Chromac 2 and all that fun stuff. So maybe there is still a Gargantuan for minions still coming out later. They've done that before, say like when the first Convergence Colossal came out, it was well behind when all the other ones were released. So it could be. My fingers are crossed for it. I really don't understand what would be they're thinking of not doing that and not giving them a Gargantuan. It's just disappointing. As far as all the rest goes, glad to see that they were vastly different than the original models, and that the sculpts are very different for the most part. I was a little bit worried that it would just be like, oh, okay. I mean, the Hurricane, where it basically was the old one, just changed a bit, which makes sense for robots, but when it's for a beast, it probably should be very much different. There goes that throat. So I was glad to see things being very, very different. The Legion of Everblight one, I'll have to wait and see what the full rules are. Not really overly happy with the look of that model, but hey, like I said, might as well be different. And again, the biggest thing will be in the end, how playworthy are they? You know, Will their points and rules make it so that they'll be seen on the table? It's a very hard thing to do in hordes. Where in minions, they love a gargantuan because our range of beasts are rather limited. So, we'll take whatever we can get. In other ones, it's really hard to get a new beast into something like trolls, where that the vast majority of troll players are just going to play Mulk. So trying to break into that with this expensive beast is kind of a hard proposition. So I'll see if this Glacier King is going to be the guy that breaks the mold. But yeah, I think they really have to be finding ones that are less points. I mean, when they first released the Colossals, where all the Colossals are 19 or 18 points, and then here comes the Gargantuans, and they're all 20. I mean, you're just exasperating the problem, I mean, they don't have to be super strong. You can always try and find that middle ground. But, how about something like a 15-point option, right? Something that's big and a little bit more badass than a heavy, but isn't going to totally break the bank, right? So all of a sudden you have another reach heavy in there. Naturally, they probably should have a better animus. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they do. All right, going on from that. See if I have any more comments here. Another one from Paloma saying, still going strong with TK. Won a tournament. Hey, good for you. 1.5 months ago, between a group of friends hooking me up to WoW and some Orcs and Goblins player hooking me up on Warmachine Hordes, I've had much time to make videos. Well, the main thing is you're still playing, having fun. That's the biggest thing. If you can't make videos, that's unfortunate, but the main thing is that you are getting time to have your own fun. Yo, my Naem. Hey, Malorian, we missed you over here at Sadhammer, even though it looks like you may have jumped ship right before it sank. Good content, Brosev, keep it up. Yeah, and I missed you guys over there too. All I can say is, even though I jumped ship, I still really hope the 9th is going to be a turning point for fantasy. So you guys deserve it. If it's really awesome, it's something that could also maybe tempt me to play more. But either way, I just want it to be a good game. I'm not one of these guys who want to switch over and say, screw fantasy, it can just go to hell. I want it to be a good game. I want all my old friends who are still playing it to enjoy their game and not feel like they're being ripped off. So fingers crossed. Back over, Stephen Walker. Why does nobody recognize Mosar as the best warlock in the game? Well, that is quite the explanation you got going there. To be fair, I have never, ever faced Mosar. I know back when I watched Vol's Bell Reports that he liked playing Mosar, but the guy just never, ever shows up. And I do know he has some tricks where he gets like teleport around and kill guys with sprays and magical funness. But let's take a look at him. We'll bring up good old Battle College. Gonna like the way you talk when you got your paintbrush in your mouth. Come on, Battle College. And we'll go over to Circle. I love Battle College. I mean, it doesn't give you all the things of War Room, but it's free. Okay. Good old Mosar, the Desert Walker. Let's see what this guy even does. So, his feat disjunction prevents channeling and leeching. That's actually really good. So when you prevent leeching from beasts, that means that if they have a turn where they put a lot of fury out there, especially if it's a high fury caster, which is normally what's taken, say like, Veil 2 or something, they have a lot of fury on the table, they can't leech it off, a lot of their beast frenzy. So it's almost, like taking all those activations away. However, there's a lot of risk to it because, hey, just because they can't leech the fury doesn't mean that they're actually going to fail their test, right? They still get the roll on it, and if they make that test, they'll still have that fury on them. There's ways you could take it off with Shepherd or something like that, but it is something where it's a little bit more limiting. And of course, the caster, the Warlock, the enemy of warlock can't do much else either. I mean, you could always cut yourself to get your fury back, but that is, I mean, there's a problem right there. Is that you got something that's really good against hordes, but nothing against war machine. And you know, I guess there's nothing wrong with making one list that's against war machine and one list that's going to be against hordes, but it does make it a little bit harder sometimes to get those matchups right. What else does he have? Isle of Sight. Maltreatment. That's kind of neat to have. Spells. He has Crevasse. That's kind of the interesting one where he goes and kills somebody and then it does the spray. He has Curse of Shadows that reduces an armor so you can deal with the armor skew. Mirage. That's a really cool one, which makes it so a whole unit has apparition. So this is nice on something, say, like blood trackers, where if they ever get engaged, this apparition out, they just get placed out, and then we can still throw and aim and everything. Pillars of Salt are a really great spell. Basically, just make these big pillars of salt that just block whatever you want, and they're kind of hard to destroy. Sands of Fate, that's the whole teleportation one. You're killing one of your own troopers, but meh, it's all right. And then Sunhammer pushes enemy jacks and beasts. Punishes them for moving near the caster. Yeah, that's not that big of a thing. You know, Mosar isn't bad, and now that I read these over, I remember how Vol SC played Mosar a lot and really got a lot of the Pillars of Salt. But it's just, again, his main game is against hordes, like with his feet, and it's like the whole reason why people don't like playing Nemo. He has a very limited feat that only affects War Machine, and even then, it doesn't always do very much. So, I don't know. He's not the best Warlock, but if nothing else, he should probably be played more. That's definitely something I'd say for Mosar. A lot more than the 0 that I see him. How do you paint horses quickly? You just paint them. Although I may be the hypocrite here. I got a horse right here, not painted. So what I do if I was going to paint this horse, which is kind of an odd horse because he's all armorized, is I'd prime him. I'm going to go and I will first paint the flesh because that's the inside. You work inside out. So whatever color you're going to make your horse, white, brown, whatever, black, you paint that all up first. Then you start working your way out. So from this, I'm probably going to be doing all the silver. So silver, 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 almost everything there. Then I have the barding, whatever highlights I want to be doing for the metal, adding in some gold or whatever there. And the biggest thing that I find when I do paint Cav and get away with it, and like don't lose all hope in humanity because I hate painting Cav, is screw the rider. Paint the horse first, then do the rider second. Because it just seems that when you add in the rider and you're trying to do both at the same time, it's like it's overwhelming or something, and it just pushes me over the limit. Obviously, it'd probably be best if you don't glue on the rider before you paint the horse, but sometimes, hey, you know, you want to play with the model before it's painted, and if it's not glued on, it'll be like how my Bretonnian horses used to be, where all the knights are all falling off because I decided not to glue them on until they're painted, and I didn't paint them for 10 years. Philomis. Some questions. I'm getting no painting done. Oh, throat. Number 1. When you suggested caster for Gator player for different situations in a prior Paintisode, the answer for almost every situation was the same: 2 casters. Is this the current situations of the competitive game where 2 to 4 casters are considered the only competitive choice for each faction? And just a second here. Sorry about that. So is it in the thing where there's like 2 to 4 that are considered to be the best? In general, yes. Okay, here's the thing. There are a lot of casters and all the different factions by now. I mean, if we're not talking minions or convergence, there's tons and tons of casters out there, and each of them have their own little niche, their own jank they can do, and they all can win games. It's not like if you take the best caster versus the worst caster, there's no way the worst caster is going to win. Everybody has their own game plan. However, what it really comes down to is having answers for skews. So, for example, if you have Gaspy 2, who is going to come out there and make clouds and bring up Thrall or Banes to kill you and blah, 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 and you know you have to deal with Lilith 2 and her stealth battle group is going to shoot you down. When you start looking at these extremes, you have to start looking at what casters, what pairings. So there's 2 casters can deal with pretty much all these situations. And it's when you start having to look at that, trying to look at the worst, not the worst, but the most extreme, like Lilith. You can beat her in combat all day. You can swarm her, but she's extreme for shooting. So you have to keep in mind that extreme shooting and have an answer to it in your 2-list pairing. And the problem is that when you're dealing with all this, and this caster can handle this, but not these, and this caster can do this, when you pair those together to cover everything, there's only a certain number of combinations that really do that well. That's not to say that you can really break the mold and catch people off guard. For example, I would normally go with Haley 2 and Siege. However, I could show up with Kane 1, Sons of the Tempest, and a Sturgis list that I've been running, and that's one of the things I'm wondering if I should for my next tournament, because it is 2 lists that people almost never see. So whereas people are trying to figure out, how do I beat Gaspy 2? How do I beat Lilith 2? How do I beat Bradigus? People aren't thinking, how am I going to beat Sturgis? And so they have no real thoughts even what this caster does. So when you line up, they might drop the wrong list. They might make a simple mistake. And in Warmachine, one simple mistake can be the end of the game. Between them, they cover a lot of situations anyway. But, you know, if you go and if I was to post this on the forums, they'd be like, you're crazy. Why aren't you playing X and whatever, right? So, yeah, that's why you normally see that. They take those 2 to 4 casters all the time because they have the answers for the extremes in the current meta. And really, the meta just really keeps expounding on itself. But you really can use the other ones too. You just got to be able to play it smart and realize that one of your best things is almost like the element of surprise, right? When somebody looks at me and says, okay, look at my Sons of the Tempest. In my Sons of the Tempest list, I have a Stormwall, I have 5 units of Gun Mages, I have the Black 13th, and a couple of Light Jacks. And you look at that, it's like, oh my God, there's Gun Mages for days. And then all of a sudden you take some lists that can really handle all those POW 10s. And then while you do that, I rush you. And I just block you with all these guys. And all of a sudden you are flooded with an army that is defense 15. And you're like, damn it, I cannot get out of the zone. Or I can't get into the zone to contest. Whatever you get into there, Stormwall kills. And hooray, I win on scenario. So lists like that can really surprise people. So don't get discouraged if you're playing Gator and you're like, you know what? I really want to play whoever. I'm trying to think of like when Harkitshev is one of those ones that not naturally comes to your mouth, but so many people try doing the whole dark horse thing with him. He's not really even a dark horse anymore. It would have to be something more like Strakov, where people just don't really see him very much whatsoever. But hey, if you see a lot of Legion or something in your area, he could be great for you. So anyway, that's a long answer to your question. I'm not going to get this guy done, am I? I'm 33% done my Paintisode, and I've only finished painting his cloak. This is not a good sign. And my nose and my throat are going nuts. All right. So next question here from Philomus says, get some paints. What would you recommend for a new player in a faction? To choose the best casters and master them, or to try all the casters? Well, okay, there's 2 different parts to this. Are you new to the faction or new to the game? If you're new to the game, I'd say mix it up. You know, this game, take lots of infantry. This game, take lots of jacks. And just learn them. Learn the game and how it works. If you already know Warmachine and you're new to a faction, and now your goal is to be competitive, pick 2 casters. They don't have to be the best, because again, best is all debatable. But take your 2 lists and try and stick with them. You know, try and play the list at least 5 times before you change it, because at this point, jumping around will just mean that you're not really gaining that mastery of the casters. And, you know, like maybe if you're a new Signar player, you take Haley 2, you go up, you forget to pop feet, you get killed, and you're like, yeah, she's garbage. When really it's like, whoa, whoa, if you just played her a couple more times, you'd see how she clicks, and she's actually really good. So, yeah, new to the game, change it up all the time, learn how all the pieces work. New to a faction, want to be competitive, pick 2 lists and just push them, push them, push them. And then once you're comfortable with one, okay, change that list up. And that takes a long time. I've been playing Signar for almost 2 years now, and I still have some stuff that I haven't really mastered, right? It takes a long time to master a faction. So number 3, what do you prefer? A supporting caster that only improves his army, Piece of Arius is his example, or an ass-kicking caster that does most of the work himself, Butcher 2 or 3 type thing, or, you know, examples like that, or a balance caster between those 2. I would say for the most part, I lean towards casters that support well, but are also badasses themselves. So a great example of that would be, I'm going to paint while I talk, because I am getting so far behind. This is horrendous. A good example of that would be Magnus 2. So I love that guy because what he did for his army is that he gave his jacks mobility, got them up there, dealt with the Pathfinder that way. He was able to get out some other spells he needed. His feet was great for locking things down. But if needed to, he could get in there and he could finish off a heavy, right? You know, like he was a pretty good beat stick, like I said, as well. That also applies to some other casters. Say, I love Kane 2 for that. He, I guess, doesn't really support his army that well. He doesn't have some great spells, but he also just kicks ass. Striker 2 the same way. Siege is another great example where he's a great support caster and can also get the work done himself if needed. But then again, I mean, look at ones like Haley 2, but I think she's more rare, where she is just only the support caster. I mean, that's the thing. I played so many different things. It's not like I've only played one archetype. But looking over all the casters that I play and my favorite casters over the years, it seems like I mainly go for the ones that are a support caster that also has respectable combat abilities. You know, one of the things that I used to hate whenever I first learned playing Warmachine is that I would lose a heavy or something like this, and then all of a sudden I'd have no answer to my opponent's last heavy, and he could just bully me around with that last heavy because my caster was some weak little whatever thing, they couldn't get it done. So now it's nice to have. It's like, okay, you killed my heavy, I still have Striker 2. Let's do this, right? So it's really nice to have, but sometimes those support casters, they're really good. So there's that one. Number 4, when you chose a second faction to play with, do you prefer something similar to your main faction, is to learn tricks you can employ with your main faction, or do you prefer to play armies that are quite different to understand later or latter what those armies will try to do against you? Well, my first faction was Legion. My second faction after that was Mercenaries. That was really to make it so I had both games. So when I learned how the Horde system worked, I thought, well, I might as well do Warmachine as well. So I got myself into Warmachine. Really learning the Warmachine and learning the Mercs didn't really help my game with Everblight. It was just really trying to do something different. And I know some people like to do that if they feel that, hey, I'm bad against Circle. I'll play Circle for a while. I'm still not painting. This is so bad. Maybe when I'm sick, I just can't mentally grasp doing both at the same time. If they figure they go against Circle, they will play Circle so that they learn how to beat them. and then it'll sell the army and move on to the next thing. Like, oh, I'm doing bad against Retribution. Let's play a little bit of Retribution so I can learn how to defeat them, like take them down from the inside type thing, right? But I'm not like that. I have not sold a single War Machine army yet. I don't plan to get any more. I've been tempted to get into Troll Bloods, but I got 5 factions now. That really should be where I stop. And so for me, what got me into some of my other factions is, I got then into Circle because I wanted something that was really beast heavy. Oddly enough, that's not what Legion was to me. I did Legion actually with a lot of infantry. Got into Gators so that I'd have a lot of medium bases because I didn't really have like an army like that. And then Signar was pretty different too, where they were just very shooty. Plus, I felt they had all the competitive answers I needed. I think out of all the armies I got, the 5 there, Signar was the only army I chose basically because of its competitive outlook. Legion I got because I thought it looked cool. Mercenaries I got because I thought, well, it was War Machine and it had a lot of options to it, so it had a lot of room to expand. Gators was more just because it had medium base. Circle was just because I like the look of the beasts. Competitiveness really didn't come in any of those decisions except for Signar. Oh, man. I think I'm scaring you guys away. Every single time I get some viewers, they start going away. Malorian, this is your conscience speaking. Come back to Warhammer. This is from D. Shagmitz. Yeah, sorry. It's still there, like I always say, but I love War Machine. All right, number 5. How do you keep your brushes? Mine keep getting stiff and ragged. Well, first of all, what I do with my brushes is I make sure that whenever I'm done, I wash off all the paint, get them nice and dry, and then I just leave them out here to air dry as well. Now, of course, brushes will not be good forever. Eventually, you start losing bristles, whatever you want to call it. The more you lose, the faster you lose them. Eventually, you're going to get paint stuck in the base, so it's just going to get bad eventually with time. So the more you paint, the faster it falls apart. So just because your paint brushes are going bad, it could just mean that you're a prolific painter, which in itself is not a bad thing. So keep that in mind. I mean, when I really get into painting, I can go through 1 brush a month. A lot of times I'm cheap, and even though my brush is clearly destroyed, I'll keep painting with it. I'll just start painting models I care less about, so I don't care if I wreck details. But for the most part, I think I go through about a brush a month when I'm heavily painting. And then even when I'm not heavily painting and I'm doing maybe like just a couple of models a month, still a brush probably lasts at most half a year, at most. And it's probably been a long, long time since I've gone that long with a single brush. It's funny, I go and I do very little painting for so long as I'm answering questions. And then now I just spend a couple of minutes and it's like, wow, it's really coming together. It's amazing what happens when you actually do some work. All right, we'll see if anything back here. We do not. So, War Report. Hey, Malorian, do you think Battlebox casters are competitive in tournament play, or are they generally weaker because they are better known? No, the Battlebox casters can be pretty freaking awesome. If you look at Crix, they have Denegra. She is, God, a nightmare to face, and very, 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 very good. Another good example would be for Gator and for Sorsha. She is really, really good. Other ones, say like Lilith, I got a win with Lilith because the competitive player I was facing did not know her. eventually, it's funny. People have this thought that the starter box casters are the weaker ones, which is completely incorrect for the most part. And then they just don't learn to face them. And so with her, I was able to pull off a spray assassination, and the guy just never saw it coming because he just wasn't used to playing against P. Lilith. P. Magnus, I guess, would be another starter box caster, technically, even though they don't really make his starter box anymore. And he's good. Rarely seen because he doesn't run an Earthbreaker. He can run the one Galleon over all right, but seems like mercenaries are all about right now. Like, oh, can you run an Earthbreaker? Nope. See you later. Which is too bad. There's so much to mercenaries. You don't need to be running a silly Earthbreaker to be competitive. It almost feels like those guys get their just desserts, though, because whenever they're transferring or transporting to a tournament, they always have to have like an extra case because they have all their models, and then they need a whole nother case to hold their colossals. You know, some of these guys need to have 2 Earthbreakers and 2 Galleons. So, in the end, they get their just desserts. All right, next question. We're going to Land of Mert. Sorry, we missed one. I feel like Gator's Peace Orca hardly gets played outside of German leagues, but I love using her. The people I talk to seem to recommend not using her since everyone knows how she works. She is so good. Look up Oceans 13 or whatever they're calling it. You know, like, how can you be bad when you just freeze everything, right? Like, stationary is a huge, huge deal. Like, knockdown, like you get from Krios, that's bad enough, right? All your stuff is knocked down. That means the next turn you have to forfeit your movement or action and keep going. But for stationary, you are just stationary. There's no way out of it. Unless you're a jack, in which case you can then shake to do it or something. But it's way, way worse. You can't just forfeit your movement or something and keep going. And then she has crippling, what is it? The one where she gets also stationary another unit. So she also has that on a stick as well. Her assassination game is just fine. Like, Peace Orca is great. So whoever in your group there is saying don't use her, it's probably because they're terrified of her. You know, like, play her. She's good. Miss Gnosis, have you tried the system Kings of War? Don't think it's your cup of tea, seeing how you are pretty much analytical tournament player and less into casual quick play games, but one never knows. Yeah, that's the one that's the Mantic one, I believe. And yeah, it never really took my attention. I mean, at first I was against it because I was a fantasy fanboy, and to me it was just Mantic trying to edge in on their game. And then in the end, it was just, you know, if I want to play fantasy, I play fantasy, you know? And if I didn't want to play fantasy, then I would not be playing fantasy. And so for them to come out with a game that was kind of just like another version of fantasy with their models, I don't know. Whenever anybody explained to me the rules, it just did not really appeal to me whatsoever. So, sorry. If you love it, that's awesome. And again, that's what I always say is if you enjoy it, go for it. But it's not really my thing. Next question. Looks like it's a larger one. Now it's Land of Mert saying, after a couple of months playing warmachine and hordes, here, let's finish this little armband first. Otherwise, I find whenever I paint these models where they have things that wrap around them, if I don't finish the wrappings, I forget where I was. Because, I mean, you look at the arm from one direction, and it's all painted. And then you kind of stop, you do something else, and by the time you come back, it's like, oh, man, I totally forgot about the wrappings. So anyway, I'm not finding the game to be as much fun as Warhammer. Both games are competitive in as much as you want to win, but Warhammer's Warhammer Hordes seems to take it to another level. The fact that the game just ends when your caster is killed really takes some of the fun out of it for me. There's nothing in fantasy, other than maybe the scenario with the banners, Blood and Glory, that prevents you from playing the whole game. The models are amazing, and the fluff of Warhammer Hordes trumps fantasy hands down. I mean, yeah, okay. Well, you have to give the models to GW. Their models are clearly the best. But should I give up on playing Warhammer Hordes? No. Is that just a style that the game is? Very intense. Give every round everything you've got, or lose. It feels like every game we play is in a tournament setting. Even casual games. Do you experience this when you started Warhammer Hordes? Like everything, when you play, you have a spectrum of players. There'll be some players that want to have a really competitive game. You'll have some players that want a very casual game. So if you're after a casual game, find more casual players. Warhammer Hordes, as it is set up so it really holds in that competitive nature. In a way, it almost turns away the fluff side because of how you can't build your characters, just like say in Warhammer, when I played fantasy, I could build someone like Super Orc, and I could make a story around him. You can't make your own caster in Warmachine, so you do get a little bit of difference there. But still, you can play lots of fun games with Warmachine. There's so many different scenarios out there. Look into things like Who's the Boss or Longest Night, or there's all these different fun scenarios. You just got to go and do it and be in the right group. As far as the game ending, as soon as you have a caster kill, well, I mean, you have the same thing in things like chess. It's just the way it goes. And really, I like that a lot more, because whereas in fantasy, I found like, yay, I took a fun army. Oh, great, you took a Death Star and I can't win. Now, like if this was here in Warmachine, it'd be, or in Warhammer, it'd be like, yeah, I took a crazy Orc and Goblin army. You took some crazy Death Star. I can still like goof around and like redirect you and score on the scenario over here and win. So to me, it's really hard. It's really what you're after, and you need to find the people that will play the way that is enjoyable for you. Philomus, Malorian, this is your conscience again. You must play a manly faction like Menoth and light people on fire, not pew-pew them at range with Nancy-Pancy Signarian guns. I almost did get into Menoth. I already had my Idrians, and then I got a big bunch of Menoth off a guy for really, really cheap, and so I was going to sell it off for profit. But I was really wondering, like, should I keep it? Should I keep it? And in the end, I decided I had too many factions. But I don't know. Menoth just doesn't do it for me. They have their own tricks. They're not a weak faction. But they usually play a more stable, grindy game. And this is not really a play style I liked. Will I get to Menoth later? Maybe. But as right now, I'm not. When I had them in my hands, it's like I had a whole army. It was tempting, but right now, I really don't see me playing Menoth unless it's just like trying it out. Sorry again about my nose and stuff like here. I keep on coughing and sniffing. I'm sure, though, you guys would rather have something to listen to than nothing, but. All right. Back to questions. Flame Knight Dragon. I was looking to branch into Legion. Man, sorry, guys. Pause. Back again. Sorry, I have to keep blowing my nose. Flame Knight Dragon. I was looking to branch into Legion, and I was wondering, outside of the Forsaken and Shepherd, what are the must-have models? Also, would Pelith be able to run a Scythian or Archangel well? Okay, first part, what do you normally see with Legion? Forsakens and Shepherds, okay. They're really common. You see Striders a lot. You see the spawning vessel a lot. You see legionnaires a lot. You see Ravagors and Scythians and Angelius a lot. So those are all the ones that are like, you pretty much see those a whole bunch. But then a lot of the other things come in. I mean, Shredders are another thing you see a lot. They're a fantastic 2-point model. But then you can always mix things in. I mean, I played my Legion very differently than most other people do. I love my Veil 2 lists, and they were not the common tier list that you see now. I ran them as combat, and it was 2 Scythians and a Carnivian. And instead of like dancing around and shooting and stuff, I was just setting up these things, getting into your face, and like sending in the Scythian to go in and kill a heavy, and then have admonition so that when the other heavy comes at me, I can move away. And it was a much different game, and it did well. I'm not going to say which one's better, but you can play them a lot of different ways. I mean, I really love my Callus list, which used a whole bunch of different infantry, from swordsmen to grotesques to everything, hex hunters. So yeah, there's a lot of things you can be using in Legion, but I've already listed the ones that are the most common. Also, the part about P-Lilith and a Scythian. Well, a Scythian works with anyone. A Scythian is a nice, cheap-ish beast that does its work, but P-Lilith with the Archangel. Well, with her feet, whenever the Archangel goes in, you can really make sure you can be hitting, so you're not having to boost a hit. You have the Parasite, so you can really bring down the armor, so that, I mean, if you thought its POW was already pretty nice at 20, now it's basically POW 23, so it's really ripping things up. Because its base is so big, it really kind of helps with her small control area, so that's something. She doesn't usually like to run a lot of beasts because of her low fury, so if one of them was a Gargantuan, then at least you could depend on it. So I think it's possible. I would not recommend it overall, but I'm sure you can make it work. Yeah. I'm looking at my Archangel now. It's such a beautiful model. Such a beautiful model. I have not finished painting. I might as well grab it. I keep on leaving the thing anyway to blow my nose. How about I actually leave here to show you a good model? This is the Archangel, and this is the best looking model in Warmachine by far. Like I said, I started it. You can see I have a lot more black work to do. I haven't done the base at all and all that stuff. But oh my God, what an awesome model this is. And I only wish it was just a little bit better. You know, it's 20 points. You know, if it was 18 points, something like what some of the Colossals are, I would see it getting a lot more play. I still really love running it with, what's his name? Thegrosh 2, I like it with. I was playing, man, it's been a long time since I did my Legion. What else was I running the Archangel under? Oh no, I lost a claw. Well, that's no good. Hopefully I still have it somewhere. It'd suck if I just lost a massive claw from him. Man, I hope it's up here. Nope. Well, that sucks. That actually just kind of like ruins my day when you see one of your favorite models missing a claw. Now, I can bits order that back from Privateer Press, or I could try resculpting it. That sucks. That really sucks. Oh, well. That's what I get for not playing my Legion. You know, when you turn your back on it, it's karma that one of your favorite models should break like that and lose a piece. Anyway, getting back to the questions, Stegadeth, have you looked at King? Okay, this seems to be like the same one as before. So no, I have not done Kings of War or whatever. Not the game for me. Presmek Rozalski. Hey, Mr. Malorian, one question about battle reports on YouTube. Recently was watching some random battle reports, and there was one thing I don't fully understand. There were some kind of achievements, oh yeah, during the game For example, doing 4 tough rolls in a round. What is this thing? Cheers from Poland. So what you were watching was mini wargaming, and this was one of the worst ideas that they've ever had. To their credit, this is their thinking. We want to get our audience learning Warmachine. So we are going to put in these achievements that are going to encourage people to try varied lists and to do different things in the game that really will showcase everything that Warmachine has to offer. So we'll make this achievement thing, right? Well, then, unfortunately, when they did this, the way that you'd win the actual league was best off for going for these achievements. And so instead of trying to win the game, people were like attacking buildings and whatever stupid thing they were doing, and it really took away from it. So my suggestion is if you ever see any of those ones on mini war game that has achievements, don't watch. Just don't watch. Luckily now they've stopped doing that. They have a little bit of achievements for the current one, but it's nothing like before. But that whole last season with achievements, don't even watch it. Normally I'm not that negative with other YouTube channels, but this one was something where even though their intention was good, it really took away from the battle report and confused a lot of players. Right here are all these players wondering, like, so what's Warmachine all about? What the hell? Why is he doing this stupid thing? You know, why is he attacking his own models? And it's because of these achievements. So yeah, ignore those. I have a whole bunch of questions that are up here on the thread here now. Flame Knight Dragon. Damn, I am late to Paintisodes, but I do have another question. Have you ever thought of using any of the mercenary warcasters that can lead Signar like Ashlyn? Ashlyn is very cool. I could. The one that does it more is Constance. She can either be a mercenary or a Signar caster, so that's probably the one I'd be doing the most. But yeah, normally when I'm doing mercenaries, I do mercenaries, right? If I played mercenaries and took a lot of Signar stuff, I might as well just be playing Signar because I like the Signar casters better. But Derek Neal, suppose GW set out with the single goal of winning you back to fantasy. What changes would they have to make in 9th to accomplish it? You know what? GW, listen up here. If you want me to come back and playing fantasy, let me write 9th. Let me on the development team so I can get in there and make sure that because it's not just the things that I want in there. I'm sure there's also whatever things other people are trying to change that I want to have my input in. You know, that would be a big part of it. Man, with all the rumors I'm hearing, don't do any of that stuff. That's for sure. We need it to have it so that when you take away steadfast, you're also taking away stubborn. We need to have more scenarios that you can win based off zones or killing off characters or something like that, make it a lot more diversified. The magic phase has to be brought back into control so you're not just 6 dicing it every time. You know, these are the main things that are kind of killing the game right now. And as well, GW, you need to support your own game and start writing your own tournaments again, because those were the golden days back there where GW would run their turn. Right now, that's what's really pushing me for Warmachine, right? I'm trying to get on a Team Canada and blah, blah, blah. I mean, back when GW was doing this and there's Ard Boys and you'd have to win at your local Ard Boy and then go to the next series and then go to the big major Ard Boys. You know, like this really pulled a lot of people in and really pushed them to play and buy more models, and they stopped doing that. So it'd have to be partly with rules and partly with the way they actually maintain their own company. Philomus, what power attack do you use the most? Slams. Slams are awesome. Sometimes I do throws and stuff like that, but slams are the best because usually if you want to headbutt something because it has high defense, it's hard to hit them because they have high defense. Slams are just like, bam, I hit my own guy in the back. He goes through you. You're not only knocked down, but you take a damage roll. You know, it takes a little bit more to set it up. But, yeah, slams, that's where it's at. Philomus, again, temptation, or I'm guessing this is temptation, to start Legion increasing. I just hope Privateer Press doesn't do something silly like release a 1 army box for Legion that would make me start the, yeah. Well, they are making an all-in-one box for Legion, so don't worry, that will be coming out. And that'll be a great time for you to start playing Legion. And when that happens, you just keep on sending me the Legion questions because, man, I used to love the hell out of my Legion. And sometimes I wonder, too, like when I go to these tournaments, if I should just surprise everyone. Because everyone's figuring that, oh, yeah, Malorian's going to take out his Signar, but I could just surprise them and take my Legion instead. You know, I could do the whole Shredder spam with Thagrosh, stuff like that. Oddly enough, I can't do any of the shooting ones because I only have one Ravagore. So all those lists that you see with like 3, 4 Ravagores with Lilith 2 and stuff, okay, I can't do that stuff, but I got my own jank. Although, I mean, to be honest, it's better to stay with what you're good at, right? Philomus again. Oh, yeah, this is saying about looking at the Archangel. Teo Dark, what is the one faction you just can't see yourself ever playing? Probably Scorn. And the reason why is because of their beasts being so goddamn unwieldy. With them having those big, huge tusks, and so you just can't line them up right, and you have to put them in crazy poses or backwards. That's just, it's hard to get into a faction that you know that you'll have to heavily model to not look as cool as it normally looks because it's just not playable. You know? So that's probably it. That'd be my one there, is Scorn. And they look really cool. And in the past, I've been like, yeah, I should totally play Scorn. And then I realized how bad of models they are for positioning. Because, I mean, like, the elephants have, like, these massive tusks, right? Just like, and it looks awesome. And then you try and line them up with other models, and it's like, you just can't do it. God, they're gargantuans. It's ridiculous, right? A lot of players that play more seriously make it so that the little tusks coming out are magnetized, so at least you can just take them away. But then they look ridiculous because they look like because they're just missing the big spots where the tusks are supposed to go. So it's almost like the old like Ninja Turtle pictures. I don't know if I've mentioned this on here before, but I've almost wondered if that's a better way to do it, is just leave the tusks out and then pretend that they are like the Ninja Turtle army and try and paint them up like that. And I don't know. It'd be silly. It wouldn't really match up with what they're wearing, but silly, silly, silly. Back to the other questions that were sent in. A lot of questions. I'm really happy to see all the questions that were sent in. You know, Grotznick1 saying, "Hey Malorian, thanks for all your awesome content. I was just reading about the Gator's battle engine yesterday, the Sacravault. Have you read something about it? What are your thoughts? And sorry if you have already talked about this. Keep the great videos coming." Hey, keep watching them and I'll keep making them. Actually, I'm sure if I got 0 views, I'd still make them because it's still something I like doing, to be honest. But Sacravault, so good. This is the new battle engine for the Gators. It's basically like this huge altar on wheels being pushed by 2 big Gators, and it collects souls. And while it has at least 1 soul on it, it can't. Okay, if you move into within 2 inches of it, you just take a point of damage, and so it's basically immune to all single point infantry. Otherwise, it could be shooting out and doing fun stuff. And so it seems really, 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 really good. One of the things where one of the places, I kind of gave away the ending there, one of the parts that Gators suffers against is against armies like Crix, who have all those heavy hitters that can just like, oh, you have posse, I don't care, you're all dead. But if you have Sacravaults, that really can mess up with that idea. That being said, I think in the end that Sacravaults will not be as popular as they're currently being spoken of. And the reason for that is just the simple fact that even though they're really good against infantry, is the whole idea that there's still a thing called the Gatorman Posse. And the Gatorman Posse is also good against killing infantry. They're not immune to it. They just deal with it by killing all the infantry. So I think at the end, when you have a choice between a Sacravault or taking another unit of Posse, you're going to go with the Posse. But if you don't own any more units, or if you're at your max, hey, Sacravault. Or if you're trying out some janky build I'm sure they could come in as well. But personally, I don't plan on getting one. I'm mainly not going to be getting one because it does not fit my little case. The reason why I love my Gators, I'm going to dump this, I know it, is that all my Gators are in this small GW case. This is it. This is all I need to have. And I have like all the casters in here. I have 3 posse. I have a bunch of beasts and solos. And with that case, I can grab it and make whatever list I want. And I'm just good to go. If I had the Sacker Vaults, then all of a sudden I had have to deal with that too. That's the same thing. I'm going to grab this now. Oh, it's gone. Oh, there it is. That's what happened with this here. This is the battle engine for Legion, which I started painting, got almost all of it done. And then the problem with it again was transport, because it's such a big model. I have my other case there where I'd have almost all my Legion inside, and then there'd be this guy. And you know, if you try to just bring him along, his little claws would break off, or these break off, or her little arm, like it's broken right now, her staff always broke off. But it's going to be the same thing if I try doing this with minions. If I got a Gargantuan, you bet I'd take that guy along because he'd be badass. But these battle engines, yeah, they're good, you know, tactically, but man, such a pain to take away when you're trying to transport them. All right. Unknown phobia. I will be starting Warhammer Fantasy Army. I'm thinking about Orcs and Goblins. What are some units that are required or good at low 500 point game? So that's a really low size to be doing, is 500 points. Basically, don't get caught into big expensive models. Don't go for monsters. Don't go for trolls. Don't go for big characters. Just take your cheap one general that's going to be a hero, and then put everything else into troops. You know, you could maybe throw in a Doom Driver, maybe, but just take your regular old troops, right? Maybe a little unit of like 10 Savage Orcs, but use the fact that your cheap infantry is really good to your advantage. And don't get suckered into like, oh boy, let's get all the toys, because that's where all of a sudden 500 points turns into a death trap and you've wasted your points. So there you go. Irish Skills saying, hey, Malorian, have you ever used Netlists? If so, did you have more success with them or when you designed your own? I would say the only time that I ran a net list, and I mean, keep in mind that sometimes I ran what turned out to be a net list, but at the time I didn't know it. That would be the case with the Dagrosh 2 Shredder Swarm, where I was like, yeah, this would be totally cool. I should run it with a bunch of Shredders. And then learned after that that's a very common list. But the only real time that I ran a list that I took off the internet that wasn't my own making was the Haley Double Stormwall that I took from Trevi the Great. And I botched it up. It was not my usual play style. And so from that, I would say that it definitely is better if you have a grasp of the game to make your own lists, because then you already have the play styles in mind. Whereas if you just take a net list, you don't know how it's supposed to be interacting. So in this example, this Haley 2 list had to be very aggressive. Usually when I ran double storm walls, you're staying back, you're being defensive, picking things off. She wants to be zipping up the field. And so I botched that up and lost. And so if you're brand new to the game and you don't really know how to make lists because you don't know the interactions, sure, grab a net list and work off of that and then change it to meet your needs. But otherwise, once you know the game, make your own list, guys. You know, you're the one who's the player who has picked up your skills and your own merit. Use those to make a list. Thomas Peterson. Hey, Malorian, would you say Gatorman is a good starter army for a new guy to War Machine Hordes? Yes and no. Yes, because they are, it's relatively cheap to get into. They have great models. They're easy to paint. However, you are really missing on some models. Whereas other guys have lots and lots of options, you do not have lots of options in Gatorman. Luckily, our one main unit choice, the Posse, is freaking amazing. But if it wasn't for that, I think that they would just be pretty much like the pigs, where you don't really see them at all. Eventually, Gatormen will be competitive, I'm sure. I mean, they are competitive now. Somebody just recently won Masters with them. But do realize that if you're expecting to be doing very well really soon, Minions is not the one you should be going with. If you are a type of player who just wants to learn the game and have fun, yeah, sure, Minions all day. I mean, literally, if you pick up 2 Posse, you have just bought a core part of every list you will make. In fact, you could probably buy a 3rd Posse and still be in that safe spot. And I mean, I think they're fun. The nice thing about playing Gators too is that you go to a tournament and you're the underdog, right? If you ever lose, it's not because, I mean, you're a bad player. I'm just playing my Gators. I'm just having fun. So you got that working for you. Probably has pissed off a whole bunch of competitive Gator players. They're going to come and bomb my house. Death threats. Although they should probably give me the death threats before they bomb my house. Kind of pointless to do that the opposite way. This guy's coming together. I have to do his little Bojangles around, and he has a whole bunch of little trophies all over. But for the most part, I'm actually almost done this guy. And how are we doing for time? We should be done. Of course, it's when I start the Paintisode that I'm just a mess. Now things seem to have cleared up. I'm not coughing anymore. My nose seems to have calmed down. So we'll keep painting. Got a few more questions to ask. Answer. Lord 17C. Is it worth it to be a PG, which means a press ganger? Well, it depends. What are you trying to be a press ganger for? Is your goal to become a better player? Probably not. You know, if you're spending extra time having to arrange events, then that's going to be taken away from you learning to be more competitive yourself. So keep in mind about that. Is your goal to run better events? Yes, you should be because then all of a sudden you'll be getting the support from Privateer Press. You get their Doyu software for running tournaments and doing rankings. You have access to getting their tournament kits. You also get their support. You'll be getting access to the new tournament list, like the steamroller packets early while you do the trials of them. If you're trying to grow the community, clearly that's good to do because you need a focal point. But too often I hear about people wanting to be a press ganger just because they want to, you know, like get more, right? Like, oh, if I was a press ganger, think of all the free stuff I get. And if you're doing that, you're being a press ganger for the wrong reasons. You know, you really should be a person who is like, you know what? If you're that guy that when somebody posts up on the local Facebook group, hey, I'm a new player, who can do a demo game with me? If you're the type of guy who jumps in and says like, yeah, I'll give you a game, I'll show you how it works, you're the type of guy that should be a press ganger, right? If you're the type of guy that's already running the local events, yes, you should be a press ganger. If you're just some guy that's hoping to, you know, get some free merch for a little effort, no, don't do this. It's not worth your effort. Let somebody with some real passion be the press ganger. We have another one here from Derek Neal saying, is Convergence actually competitive? Yes, yes, they are. Despite them having a limited release, kind of like Gatorman, they still have more models and choices than Gatorman, and they have stuff that's really, really good, like a Colossal. Other part of it, how long before power creep renders the army unplayable? Well, I mean, you can't really say that. Because at first, Privateer Press said that, okay, look at this, guys. We're giving you everything right now, and so enjoy it, but know that we're not really giving you any updates after this. So, okay, fair enough. You know, like you kind of imply, We'll be good right now, but then we're going to fall behind as we don't get any updates. And then what happens? They already got their second Colossal. So either Privateer Press changed their mind, or the idea of them not getting updates just probably means that they're just not getting them to the same rate as the others. But yeah, Convergence can be very competitive. And if you like them, play them. They're a little bit of a puzzle to figure out at first because you got to really plan out your turn. But yeah, they can be very, very, very competitive. And now that the battle engine for them is soon going to be out, they're scary. They are very scary. I'm pretty happy that almost no one plays them locally. There's one guy who was, but then he went to Circle, so that was nice. I think we're down to the Bojangles. All around his little cloak, he has all these little teeth and coins. So I think once I'm done that, we're done this model. Okay, we have Flame Knight Dragon saying, my first army list I am planning for Legion, P. Lilith, Angelius, Ravagore, Scythian, Typhon. Already I'm going to tell you that's probably too many heavies. You probably won't do any more than 3. Striders with UA, Max Spawning Vessel, 2 Blighted Nist Shepherd. Well, that'll help you with your beast. The Forsaken. Should I trade out 1 or 2 of the beasts for something else? Well, for one, you have the Spawning Vessel, but you don't have any infantry to really take up into it. As well, you're a ranged army, so it's not like you're going to be taking in the enemy troops. So the Spawning Vessel doesn't seem to really make sense. The beasts at first, I thought you had too many, but then I saw that you have 2 Shepherds and a Forsaken, so you can make them work if you wish. Ooh, that's not right. One of the things you got to kind of decide is how you're going to play her. Whenever I played her, the biggest thing I was always pushing for is that spray assassination. So I ran her with Typhon and double Carnivian. But it's really about how you're going to play her and what your game plan is. So if you could give me a little bit more info on that, that would help a lot. I mean, one of the things you have to really watch about for Warmachine is that if you want to go gun line, you also have to realize that you have to hold up the objectives. Otherwise, you'll just lose on scenario. So, I mean, with these beasts, you could be a little bit more aggressive, but you also have a very low model count. So you could just be trapped out of zones and lose that way. So keep that in mind. Back over from the ones that were left from my video. Kay says, A. Malorian, thank you for all these Paintisodes. I really get a lot of stuff done while listening to you. Are you keeping up with all the crazy new fantasy rumors? Nope. Most of them seem really far out to me, and I don't believe they will start canceling Lizardmen, Protonia, or making round bases. What are your thoughts? At this point now, there's been so many crazy rumors that I don't even listen to them anymore. I'm just waiting till Ninth comes out, and then I'll listen to the reviews. So, also, I started a Legion army. You motivated me to try it out. I have the stuff from the 2-player Battlebox and a unit of Strider Rangers and an extra Ravagore Scythian Carnivian. I have not decided which one to make yet. What would the next models, units, casters be to get for this army? Well, for starters, for that one where you have not made that heavy into anything yet, make it magnetized. You know, cover your bases. It's a lot better to own 3 heavies and swap it out whenever you need it than dedicate now. So that's what I do there. As far as where you want to go past this, it really again depends on how you like to play, right? Most players will be looking to Lilith 2, Saren, and Veil 2. So those are the more common casters in Legion. Beasts are usually the way to go. So let's see, what beast did you have again? You had the one that was kind of everything, and then you also had the Carnivian from the other star set. Yeah, so you'll want to get another one. Get another kit that you magnetize, so that all of a sudden, if you want to run double Ravagore, double Scythian, you can do that whenever you want. You also will want to pick up an Angelius. So that's pretty much it there. Thanks, long-time listener from Tokyo. Wow. It's always crazier when I hear, like, listening to you from Poland or from Tokyo, right? Just listeners all around the place. I love it. Last question here. It looks like it's a long one. Oh, really long. From Jasper W. Next week, I'm going to a 35-point tournament. I am bringing Boulder 2 and Chromac with the following lists. I am new to Warmachine Hordes, so don't know a lot about other casters or warlocks other than my own. So I was thinking of doing my pairing on what type of mission I get. If it has a zone, I'll drop Boulder 2. If not, Chromac. Okay, we'll get into this. Please give me your thoughts on the list and my pairing plan. And before this, I just want to jump over here to make sure I catch these comments as they come in. ZWolf123, hey Malorian, I'm looking to getting into Warmachine Hordes. Stuck between Legion, Menoth, and Crix. Sell me on one, please. I would say go Menoth. Warmachine is easier to learn than Hordes, and Menoth comes in the starter box, the 2-player starter box. Yeah, I mean, whereas Crix will be like all the time, just guys. Menoth has a more enjoyable balance list, so I think you'll enjoy them more. Yo-Yo Manaim, sorry for off topic, but do you work out? Yeah, do I work out? Did you see this? Are you making fun of me? No, I don't work out. Your trapezius muscles are huge. We need more tabletop players to look as tough as the models do. Yeah, sorry, no, I've not worked out since high school, and that was a long time ago. It's funny, I don't work out, but I'm always the guy that's called out to move couches and stuff like that. Maybe I'm just like a naturally big German boy, but definitely something I need to do. I'm a little bit overweight. That might have to be a new campaign at some point where Malorian has to lose this weight I've got. I actually always feel bad. Like sometimes I don't want to stand up when I'm doing these Paintisodes because I don't want to show off my gut. That's not a show off. I don't want to reveal it. Showing it off and be like, oh, look at the six-pack. That's not me. We have a local guy, though, that he's like a real bodybuilder, and so we're always teasing him and saying that he's the wife stealer and all that stuff. But anyway, getting back to this Jasper W, since this will be a longer one. Okay, first list here. It's a Tier 4 Balder 2 list that has 2 Watchers, Megalith, which is what you want, a Wold Guardian, Druids, and Shifting Stones with UA. As far as that list goes, at 35, that list is great. The Wold Guardian, yeah, that works out fine. I really think that list is fine for 35 points. Tiers, like you go for Tier 4 here, I find that tiers work a lot better at 35 points for the majority of them, where you just basically get the benefit and get out, as opposed to when you get at 50 points, it's like, now I have to put in a lot more models at the limited list. But this list here, I think is a solid one. The next list here is Chromac running Gorax, Getorix, Stalker, Shifting Stones with UA again, Swamper, Bellower Crew, Tharn, Blood Trackers, and Nuala. Well, I could definitely see it. I don't run the Blood Trackers with him, but when you want a model to be triggering Warpath, they're a nice one to do that. They just go up there, throw a little spear, and get things going. Getorix is freaking awesome. The Gorax is probably going to be the one where it's like, because at this low point level, 4 points can be quite a bit. Plus, you never really want to be forcing a frenzy when you have only the 2 beasts. But then again, that could be what's setting up your win. So overall, I actually like both your lists. So for being a new player, Jasper W, these are great lists to go with. Now, the big thing to remember here is their play styles. Chromac likes to get up there, say, you're a jerk, you don't get to cast any spells, and then use his movement shenanigans to get in there and kill stuff. With the Stalker, he's going to be killing infantry like crazy, where he's going to have wild aggression and then be going berserk. And of course, with the Warpath movement, and then eventually you're trying to line up so you can get Getorix to take out the enemy heavy or caster. So that's really his deal. So really, anything that has a low model count, he'll do well against, or anything that has. It's kind of saying both things. Like if he has a low model count, you can really get in there and get the alpha strike and take them out. But if they have a lot of infantry as well, that Stalker, like I said, is going to crush them. As well, if they're really dependent on their magic, say like Crix, he's also a great drop. Meanwhile, your Balder list is more of a slow grind. So for the scenario, it's more of a thing where if you ever see something that has spread out, like Incursion or something like that, you don't want to go with Balder. Balder wants to have everything close together so he can brick up and slowly move up as well and do his thing. So as well, you have to watch for things that can get past his brick. So let's say, for example, for Crix, no matter what the scenario is, I would be dropping Chromac against Crix and not Balder. Balder will just get swarmed and killed, and Chromac can really be a pain for Crix. Meanwhile, if you're up against Signar and you saw a lot of shooting, I'd be going to Balder, because then all of a sudden you don't have to worry about having your Stalker shut off the table and by Kane 2 or whatever, and then you can really just go and tank it with Balder 2, get up close and finish them off. So I would also, I mean, like you said, you're a new player, you don't know a lot of interactions yet, but try and think of your play style more, where Balder 2 is the tank, and then Chromac is more of the mobile killing type guy that just wants to get in there and get the alpha strike. So otherwise, that's all the questions from yesterday's video. We'll see if you have any new ones here. Irish Skills saying, to the new Legion guy asking what to get, go to Hand Cannon Online and look at the Blight Makes Right. They help you with where to start. Great podcast. Yeah, all the stuff there in Hand Cannon Online is good. I do find sometimes the guys in Blight Make Right are a little bit cocky, but they know their stuff, so they are really good to listen to. Philoma is saying, yeah, go Menoth or you will burn. Yeah, they're cool. I'd have to do something too, because I think like the whole like churchy scheme, I'd have to find something else weird to do with that. One of the things I was thinking about is like going back to 40K, getting a lot of those like corn symbols, and then painting them all red and black and like shaving off the cross and putting on the corn thing. So it'd have to be something different like that, but then that's a lot of effort. And in the end, a lot of times when I think of all the different lists I could be making with Menoth, it's like, well, there's so much I could be doing with Signar, right? So it's when you own a whole faction from like every single model out there, it's hard to then go and say like, oh, let's go to this other faction, because there's usually not a lot of things that they can do that I can't simulate in some way. Z-Wolf123, do you think that Judicators are needed to win for Menoth? I'm not painting again. And thoughts on if Scorn is competitive. Judicators are not needed. They're nice, but they are not needed whatsoever. Menoth has a lot of other good heavies that they can take access from, so do not feel like you need to buy that Colossal if you are a Menoth player. But man, when you get Colossal versus Colossal and you're facing that Judicator, it is dangerous times, because you know that if you go in there and you don't kill that Judicator, it will kill you. Between the Choir and whatever other buffs it's going to have, it always one rounds a Colossal going back. Ugh. Otherwise, Scorn, are they competitive? Hell yeah. And they're only going to get more competitive when they have their little bugs come out, their little scarab guys. That's going to be a really scary time to be a shooting list against them. Their new Hydra they're getting with 5 sprays, that should be crazy. So yeah, Scorn with their Malakarn and all their own tricks, You know, like they're not out of it. Scorn is still a force to be reckoned with. And anyone who disagrees deserves to take a mullet card to the face. So, I am 20 minutes past what I'm supposed to be doing, but I'm going to finish this guy. He is at the point where he is almost done. I've been a bad painter today, and I've been talking too much with my hands and not painting. We were supposed to have a guest on today. The hope was that we're going to have Whoopi Womp on to join us, but unfortunately, he got busy with work and got called in, so that was too bad. Maybe next time we'll get him. I'm also going to try and see if I can get more guests on. I don't know. It's, again, I'm trying to develop that community. I've been trying to talk to Trevor Adderidge, Trevor the Great more, trying to get things going there. I mean, that's one of the things I miss too, is back in fantasy, I could always be chatting with Once Bitten or the Sustainable Center or whoever, and I knew that if any time I wanted to talk shop, I could just send one of them a message and I get an answer back. And we could talk about whatever crazy comp idea or army build. And it's just not like that for the War Machine yet. So I want to definitely try and develop more of those relationships. You know, I want to get into one of these things where I guess you don't even really see that either, where a lot of the other channels don't really do the, like, tactical team type things or the rants. Whereas before, it'd be like, okay, Sustainable Center does one, then I do a counter one, or my own view on it. You know what? I miss that. So, and I still have this idea of doing like a Signar podcast type thing. I don't know. I got to get the players together for that. I don't own anything to actually record a podcast, so it'd probably be a YouTube-based one. I think that'd be a lot of fun. And I mean, of course, until I start talking to some of these people, I don't know. For all I know, Trevor the Great's a jerk. I doubt he is, but, until I actually get more experience with him. I was also wondering if Tin Man Excel would want to do more stuff like that, but I know he's a busy guy. I don't know. I just want to be getting more stuff like that done. Maybe talk to the advanced maneuvers guys again, who have still not done my battle report. That was a long time ago. That was like half a year ago where I had him on. And it's like, yeah, we'll do whatever battle report you want. I was like, awesome. Rias versus Ashland. And they're like, okay. Never happened. Never happened. So that's me calling you guys out again. I want to see my ninja fight. Make it happen. But either way, Barnabas is basically done. The wash will really help here. I have not done the wash yet, but I've done all the details. Of course, once I put that dark wash on, let's do the wash first. Because right now, he looks like just like pink with an ugly gray on him. Let's get the wash on so you can get a better idea of how he's going to end up. Because all of a sudden that cloak will get a lot darker. A lot more of the details will come out. Flame Knight Dragon saying, I was wanting to play aggressive, but I think I can't really make good lists to do not having much play experience. You can play P. Lilith aggressive. For a while when I was at the very end of playing Legion, I was getting into that because her feat, which is normally used for either ranged or sprays or something, also could be combat. So you could do that, but she is a squishy caster who doesn't normally camp much. So her playing forward is really risky, and if you're going to be aggressive, she has to because she does not have a big control area. So it's possible. If you do that, you would again, you have Typhon, so you want to get up there and then feet and use the sprays to clear out lots of guys. You're going to need to be also running like Striders or something so that after you're aggressive, you can bog everything down so that with the counterattack, they don't just kill off your heavies. but it's possible, but just know it's a really hard play style. ZWolf123, I was thinking of doing them as undead Menoth if I was going to do it. You know, and that's the great thing about this game is that they come basically as one way to make it. But I've heard of many people doing their own spin on it. Like for this one here, it's her riding on top of this tentacle monster. I've heard of people who do it basically the reverse, where either they just take off this top piece and put her here, or make it like it's almost like it's a little like a Mario pipe thing. So it's like the pipe, and then this beast is coming out from the other side. You know, so you can do that stuff too. Like, have fun with your models. You don't have to make it the way that's there. Undead Menoth would be great. Some of the conversions could be kind of difficult because of metal models and so forth, but overall, you'll have fun with that. It was too bad to hear that Privateer Press did change to say that you can't. What is it? It was really to protect the copyright. So they're saying that you can't do a conversion that's stealing the ideas of somebody else. You know, they're just covering their own butts. But a lot of people are starting to make like Star Wars armies and whatever, Dragon Ball Z and a whole bunch of different themes. But unfortunately now that's really, even though that's really just like technical stuff to cover their own butts, now a lot of times people will not do those conversions because they're worried that if they ever go to a big tournament, they won't be able to play their models they put their heart and soul into. My part still was going to be that Legend of Zelda chicken army, whereas it's going to be Gaspy 1 and then all those chickens. And then I was going to find the sound file from that. You know, when you hit a chicken too many times and all the chickens attack, I was going to get the sound file of that and play it whenever it was my turn. That was when I was really janky. You know, I like to think that I'm still a little bit janky now, but back then I was really coming up with the stupidest shit. So the wash is on here. I'm just making sure that's not pooling anywhere. But like I hoped, it did fill in the cracks where I wanted it to. I see I have a little bit of cloak there that I did not paint. But otherwise, we're done. Oh no, did I just wipe it on my head? No. It's all right. It's one of those things that sucks is when you get on that last wash and all you have to do is put it down and let it set. But what do? You tap one part of it with your hand, smear off the wash. There we go. I can see. You always got to watch these skulls too, because sometimes the eye takes in all the black wash and sometimes it takes in nothing. And that makes it look really weird. We have like one super dark eye and one super bright eye. So always watch it when you put the wash on a skull. But just making sure there's nothing else I need to do. Here it is. So there's Barnabas. Of course, it's not going to focus that well, but I still have to do the base and stuff. But there you go. I painted some Warmachine this month. It wasn't just the board game stuff. Thanks to all you guys that watched me for an hour and a half, even though the first half was me having to leave, blow my nose, and cough. It was great, and thanks for watching. I'd love to hear what you've been painting, and we'll be back next Monday with another Paintisode. So we'll see you then. Bye.